Chapter 6, Brave Enough to Leave. When Emily Gale woke up, she realized that she's the only one in the car. Her evening gown she had worn was thrown aside, and it was torn and tattered. A sense of uneasiness crawled up inside her. What did she do? How horny was she back then? Was she the one who tore the gown? Where did she get such strength? As soon as she sat up, she felt the pain, and those fragmented memories gradually became clear. Did she? She had just sat on Hunter, took off his clothes, unbuckled his belt, and pulled down his pants. OMG. She took the initiative and did it, with the most desired bachelor in the city, the young master of the Jackson family who is like a god in bailing. But why it seems to be wrong? Why did she feel so embarrassed now? It takes two to tango. He wanted it just as bad as she did. It hurts so much. Emily sat up after wrapping up his coat and peeked out the window. Not far away, Hunter's tall and big figure stood against the wind, with Aspenlee beside him. God knows what he was reporting to him. This was now the second time she met him. For the first time, however, by watching his perfect figure from behind, her heart still trembled for him. Her hand covered her chest tightly and bit her lower lip. There's no way she will fall for him again. The man is absolutely heartless. In her previous life, no matter how she pursued, how much effort she extended, or how passionate she was, he was still as cold as an iceberg that lasts 1,000 years. It's not that she can't open the door in his heart, but that no woman in the world can open it. In this life, she has no intention to repeat such a tragedy again. She fastened the buttons of his coat and carefully climbed to the front driver's seat. Not far from the car, Aspenlee hung up the phone and immediately reported to Hunter. Master, everyone is still waiting in the hotel. Now, do you want to go back to continue the engagement party? With the status of the young master unbailing, if he didn't say that they could leave, no guest would dare to leave. Even if they were asked to wait until dawn, everyone are willing to wait. Because, no one dared to offend Bailing's most powerful, the president of Century Group, Mr. Hunter Jackson. He didn't speak, his deep gaze fell on the distant sea level, and his unpredictable gaze made people unable to guess what he was thinking. The young master did not speak, and Aspenlee did not dare to bother, so he could only wait quietly. He didn't know how long it took before Hunter Jackson looked back, turned and walked towards the car. Yes, the engagement will continue as planned. After resting for some time, the girl should have recovered already, Hunter thought. After all, the engagement was his grandma's idea, meaning, no matter what happens, it cannot be changed. Aspenlee followed behind him, afraid that the future young lady would still be unpredictable. He don't know yet what the situation was, so he didn't dare to approach. But what is the situation in front of him? With a whoosh, the car, that was actually in front of them, was driven away. The two men was completely befuddled. If his heart were not strong enough, tonight, he would be scared to death by the future young lady, Aspenlee thought. First, she hijacked the young master with a knife, then touched and kissed him. After that, he took off young master's clothes and pulled his pants, and, it was unlikely that young lady was able to force herself on him, she couldn't have raped him. The young master would never let that happen. But now, after all of that, this woman has the nerve to steal his car. This is a disaster. How could this have happened? The young master is furious. Can his life be kept? Being fired might be the best result. There was a rumbling of thunder, and after a flash of lightning passed, a heavy rain suddenly poured down. Aspenlee's legs softened and he almost knelt to God. Does the heavens want him dead or what? Young master, I will tell my brother to come over, pick you up, and bring you back. Go. The rain wet Hunter Jackson's short hair and messy bangs fell on his face. Not only did he not detract from his handsomeness, but on the contrary, it gave him a touch of evil charm. But at this time, there was an absolutely cold air on young Master Jackson's body, and with a cold face, which had always been calm, burned with anger. Hold him, force him, use him. Now, dare to abandon him. Good, great. Emily Gale, you are brave enough. Let's see how this goes. Chapter 7, In one glance, shocked by the beauty, Emily Gale really didn't expect to abandon anyone, abandon young Master Jackson. How is this possible? In the world, is there any woman willing to abandon him? She just didn't want to have any more entanglements with this man. The mess in the car just now was just an accident and a mistake. Now that she is sober, this mistake will naturally be over. However, what does this inexplicable downpour mean? Is this to give her and Hunter hatred? Thinking of the situation that Hunter Jackson might face now, Emily shook his hand and nearly crashed into a car in panic. She just didn't want to have any entanglement with young Master Jackson, but she didn't expect that young Master Jackson would make her hate herself. Who is he? If you provoke him, it will definitely not end well. The road ahead was turbulent, and finally drove the car into the Gales' villa. Emily stepped on the brake and stopped the car. She left the parking garage in the rain and hurried to the main house. The rain hit her face, and all her makeup was washed away. She couldn't see clearly in front of her. Suddenly, with a bang, she hit her head on someone's elbow. She was knocked to the ground by the rebound, and the other one was also knocked back a few steps by the impact. Daniel Jackson's face darkened while holding an umbrella. He was about to blame the maid who was being reckless. But after seeing the maid's face clearly, he was taken aback, and he was suddenly shocked. When did the Gale family have such a beautiful little maid? This bomb-sized face is white and delicate, with exquisite features. The petite figure drenched by the rain looks fragile, so people can't wait to hold them in their arms and take care of them. Even Emily Gale, who is known as the most beautiful lady in Bailing, looks less than 1/10 of her. Little girl, Daniel Jackson was going to help her. Who knew that after the little girl got up by herself, she ran away without even looking at him. This is the small garden in front of the garage. The flower bed circled the trail into several paths. In a blink of an eye, the beautiful girl was gone. But the little white face just now has been deeply imprinted in Daniel's heart. The grandparents of the Jacksons and Gale family were playing matchmakers, and each of the Jacksons' sons were being matched with one of the Gale's beautiful daughters. The Gale's second daughter, Emily Gale, who is the most beautiful, and the eldest is also pretty but not as good as Emily. And the youngest daughter, Emily, is simply a strange one. She wears heavy makeup all day long and feels sick when she sees her. But, that doesn't matter now. Who is this maid? Not far away, Emily, who had just got off the car, came over with an umbrella. Daniel, why are you here? Half an hour ago, Aspen Lee said that the engagement party was cancelled. Emily doesn't know how happy she is now, and she is in a good mood. Smiling face. Obviously Daniel liked Emily's smile very much before, and when she saw her smile, she felt that the whole world was bright. I don't know why, but now I see her smiling face, but I always feel that something is missing. However, what she said was the second daughter of the Gale family. This status cannot compare to that of a little maid. I thought you had already gone back, and I was planning to find you with Mr. Gale. The engagement party was cancelled, and he had nothing to do tonight, so he wanted to come and stay with Emily. How could Emily fail to see his mind? Daniel Jackson has pestered her so hard these days that he completely bowed under her pomegranate skirt. It was originally intended to use him to get close to young Master Jackson, but tonight, young Master Jackson's engagement party was cancelled, and she still had a lot to do. As for the second young master of the Jackson family, although she is also very wealthy, if she can be with the young master, Daniel Jackson will be of little value. Dad and the others will be here soon. Daniel, I'm afraid our house will not be peaceful tonight, or, you go back first. Emily escaped from marriage, and now, his father must be anxious to death. She does have a lot of things to do, and it is really inconvenient for Daniel to be here. Daniel, I will see you tomorrow. She thought it would take a lot of effort to persuade Daniel, but he didn't expect that Daniel Jackson actually agreed to it. Then I'll go back first, and look for you later. Looking at the main house in the distance, Daniel felt disappointed in his eyes. The face of the little maid just now has been lingering in her mind. Now that I look at Emily, the more I look at it, the more dull I feel. Taking another look at Emily, he nodded, turned and left. Emily was a little surprised. Why did he lose so much enthusiasm when he looked at her eyes just now? But she didn't want to think about it, because her father Gale came back. Chapter 8, Second Sister, What did you let me drink? Emily is back? What the hell is going on? Ask her to get down. Gale, who just came back, heard that Emily was upstairs and almost stamped his feet with anger. He thought that something happened to his little daughter, or that she was with young Master Jackson, but she ran back by herself? Is this a fugitive marriage? This is something that does not grow. Looking so ugly, it is rare that young Master Jackson is willing to be engaged to her, even dare not know what is good or bad. Offended young Master Jackson. Can their Gale family survive in Bailing? Does she really want to disgrace his father? His wife Sonia Gale glared at the maid, and said angrily, "Hurry and bring Emily down." "Yes, ma'am." The maid immediately went upstairs and asked Miss Emily to come down. Kalina walked quickly into the hall when she heard that Emily was back. She glanced at Sonia, and Sonia nodded. Kalina hurried over, holding McGraw, who was so mad, and said softly, "Dad, you have high blood pressure. Don't get overly agitated, it's not good for you." "Where can McGraw come down?" "Emily run away from the engagement." "Now, how do we explain this to young Master Jackson?" "Dad, Grandma Jackson's intention is to marry our two families. If something like this happens tonight, I'm afraid young Master will not take her back." Kalina lowered her voice, and then whispered, "If the two cannot marry, the elder Lady Jackson will be very angry." "Dad, we can't let the engagement really be cancelled." McGraw looked desperate. "You also said that young Master Jackson can no longer want that girl Emily. How can I remedy the engagement?" "Maybe." Kalina's face turned red, and some words made her, the most popular lady in Bailing, seem a little inappropriate. Of course, Sonia knew what her daughter meant, and immediately said, "At the beginning, Jackson and Gale's marriage should be meant by the elder lady of the Jackson family. In my opinion, young Master Jackson doesn't necessarily like Emily much." "Meaning?" McGraw seemed to understand a little clue. Sonia immediately said, "If we change to another Miss Gale, she will be more beautiful and elegant. Maybe young Master Jackson will really like it." "Yes, in this way, the second sister can replace me and become young Master Jackson's fiancée." Emily stated, who had just come down from the stairs, lay on the handrail of the stairs, looking at Kalina with a laugh. "But second sister, aren't you with the second young master of the Jackson family?" "You, don't talk nonsense." "Yes." "Daniel pursued me, but I didn't agree." Kalina Gale raised her head and saw Emily's face clearly. Her heart trembled suddenly. She panicked. "Emily, why don't you have makeup?" "You." Sonia was also taken aback by Emily's clean and white face. How dare this girl show her true face? "People are going to sleep at night, why do they have to put on makeup?" Emily smiled at the corners of her lips, staring at Kalina with a naive and puzzled expression. "Elder sister, you always taught me to make up all the time, saying that girls can't see people without makeup, but now I find that I look better without makeup than with makeup." McGraw is really dumbfounded. He has used to see the daughter who likes to paint her face like a ghost character. Why now? Why does she look so beautiful without makeup? Kalina's heart twitched, and she could only force a smile on the face of the puzzled look from her father. "No, doesn't Emily have to make up herself?" "My sister, when did she say that?" As soon as the conversation turned, she immediately opened another subject. "Emily, what is going on tonight? Where have you been? Why didn't you attend the engagement party?" In front of Emily, she was still the gentle and affectionate second sister, and her caring face also performed her sister's role very well. Emily sneered in her heart. In her previous life, it was this hypocritical Kalina, who, not only tortured her life, but also killed Ross Jackson. Now, God has given her a chance to start again. If she doesn't repay this sister, how can she be worthy of her rebirth? Emily blinked her innocent big eyes and looked at her. "Second sister, I don't know why, after you gave me a drink, I started to feel dizzy and my whole body was feverish." She rubbed her temples to show that she hasn't fully recovered. "I was afraid that I would make a fool of myself at the party, so I hurried home and took a cold shower. I still feel a little uncomfortable now." She lowered her eyes and looked at Kalina's gaze. There was a hint of a smile in her eyes, but all they could see was a clear face, and a confused look. "Second sister, what did you give me a drink? Why does my body feel so strange?" Chapter 9, What is on your neck? "After drinking, my whole body felt dizzy, became hot, and felt so strange." McGraw's gaze fell on Kalina. He was almost 50 and wasn't a fool. "It's not what did Emily drink, But why? This thing turned out to be given to the younger daughter by his second daughter. Kalina was guilty of being seen by him. She shook her head. Dad, I didn't give Emily medicine. How could I? Emily blinked her big eyes and stared at her innocently. Second sister, what do you mean by medicine? What medicine did you give me? She is just an 18-year-old girl. Isn't it normal for her to be ignorant of many things? Emily also interprets this moment of innocence vividly. Kalina, what did you drink for her? McGraw frowned. If the second daughter really did anything to break the engagement between Emily and Hunter, he would never tolerate it. Dad, how could I harm Emily? It must be this girl who drank something wrong. She was afraid of being blamed by her father, so she pushed it off. Kalina's acting skills are not covered up. For a moment, the corner of her eyes was covered with a thin mist. Dad, I am your daughter. You should know everything about me. Dad? Sonia also immediately said with a throat. McGraw, our Kalina is well known in bailing. Do you think she can do that to her sister? Besides, Emily has always been a bad girl. Now you are going to listen to Emily's accusations and blame our good and academically gentle and filial daughter? Kalina has been knowledgeable and gentle since childhood. Be well behaved, whether it's in life or in school grades, they are all first class. After she participated in several banquets in the upper class of Bailing when she was 18, she became Bailing's most popular socialite. One is because she is really beautiful, and the other is because she is very knowledgeable, good at playing piano, dancing well, and every move is almost perfect. McGraw looked at Emily standing at the top of the stairs again, but his eyes were lost. She is really good looking now, but she has always been a problem girl. Not only did she drop out of school, but she also smoked, drank alcohol, put on heavy makeup, had promiscuity, and ran away from home. There were a lot of problems. This is not something a delicate imperfect face can save. The most popular, McGraw said, Emily, your sister can't give you something bad. I'm afraid, it's a misunderstanding. Emily smiled, but there was no warmth. She smoked, only once in her life, or Kalina deliberately guided it, saying it was fun, so she tried to smoke once. Just like this, she was smoking a cigarette with heavy makeup, and there were photos of a few wine bottles beside her, which spread all over the internet without knowing how. She was stupid in her last life, she admitted. She never doubted Kalina. Of course I know it's a misunderstanding. How could I suspect that the second sister is killing me? When the second sister told me to learn to smoke, she helped me to hide from my father. She blinked and smiled a little stupidly. If it wasn't for the second sister, this matter must have been discovered by you, Dad, for the first time. What did you say? McGraw's heart was shaken and he stared sideways at Kalina. Dad, how could I? Damn Emily, was it on purpose tonight? But how could she suddenly become like this? Is this a leaked mouth by accident? Or, deliberately? Is it her illusion? Why do you always feel that Emily tonight is completely different from before? McGraw, Kalina hates the smell of cigarettes the most, you know. Do you believe she will teach Emily to smoke? Sonia couldn't wait to tear Emily's mouth. The previous Emily was so stupid that he couldn't even speak well. But in front of her, she seemed innocent but her teeth were sharp, and she was framed everywhere. How could she be like another person? McGraw doesn't know whether he believes it or not. Tonight, the little daughter has changed so much. He is still a little confused. But the most important thing is that the engagement has been cancelled. I am afraid that young Master Jackson is really unwilling to have Emily anymore. What can I do? Suddenly, Sonia raised her eyebrows, and quickly walked to Emily upstairs. What's on your neck? She inquired. Chapter 10, That man, that's him. Emily is still indeed a little weak tonight, but now she is just holding on. With Sonia's footsteps were too fast, and when Emily realized what might be on her neck, the collar had fallen into Sonia's hands. Sonia didn't have any pity for Emily. She pulled hard, and Emily's neck was immediately exposed to everyone's sight. A sneer flashed across Kalina's eyes, but she pretended to be surprised and said, God, Emily, why are there so many hickeys on your neck? Emily could not hide, and was torn off the stairs by Sonia. Before she had time to explain anything, McGraw had already walked in front of her. How could this happen? McGraw stared at the hickey on Emily's neck and collarbone, his fingers trembling with anger. "There is so much that can be seen. I don't know how many are hidden in the clothes." Kalina immediately became righteous, with a sad look on her face. "Emily, you won't really be with those messy men." Kalina glanced at McGraw, who was already so angry that she was about to see smoke. Her dear daughter naturally has to put father first in everything. "How can you save your dad's face?" Sonia immediately helped. "Emily, you framed your dad like this and framed our Gale family. If the young master knows what you did tonight, he will definitely kill everyone in our family." This is to let our entire Gale family be buried for your promiscuity. In a word, let McGraw suddenly became irritable. "The little daughter's promiscuity is really going to kill him in Gale's family. You unfilial girl, you!" He was furious with anger, raised his hand, and he was about to slap her heavily. "How did you know that the man who was with me tonight is not Hunter?" Emily said, causing McGraw's raised hand to stop, and the slap couldn't go on. "You said, today the man who will be with you this late is Hunter?" Emily did not respond to this. If she could, she would never have a relationship with Hunter anymore. But now that she has been tossed, what kind of mother and daughter are Sonia and Kalina? They will never let this matter go. "Are you still waiting for them to strip their clothes completely?" "Dad, it's impossible. It can't be young Master Jackson." "How could young Master Jackson like a girl like Emily?" "Why can't you like me? Don't you think I look better than you, sister?" After she washed away the cosmetics on her face, she was really persuasive. "A man can tell the difference between being beautiful or not, and McGraw is not blind." Kalina was so shocked that she couldn't say anything. She looked at Sonia with red eyes. Sonia immediately said sharply, "Do you think we are all fools? What kind of character is Hunter?" "A big family like the Jackson family pays the most attention to face, and they will do it for you." She paused. After all, she has identity. "Some people feel dirty when they say something, but I still have to say." "As for the monkeys, they are so anxious that they have to mess around with you at such an important time tonight, causing the engagement party to be cancelled." She looked at McGraw, and immediately had another attitude. "McGraw, this girl must be lying." McGraw was a little embarrassed, but thinking about it, "I also think Sonia's words make sense. It is impossible for a big man like Mr. Jackson to do such a wayward thing." "Do you know Mr. Jackson?" "You know that he must not." Emily pushed Sonia away and grabbed her neckline hand and sneered. "Master Jackson said that he will come to give everyone an explanation in person tomorrow." "No, after dawn today. Why not wait a few hours to listen to what Hunter has said?" "No, this girl must be taking advantage of it." During this period of time, she ran away secretly from home. "McGraw, she hasn't done anything like this before." "Sonia must punish her tonight, and she must not give her any more chance." "Emily's face alone is enough to make people want to kill her a million times." "McGraw, this ugly girl has done something wrong and still doesn't know how to repent. Tonight, you must beat her hard. Otherwise, she will never grow." "Sir," the housekeeper hurried in, panting, "Sir, young Master Jackson is here."
Hit the like, thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for listening.